So for this first project, I picked up from the Dollar Tree 3 pumpkins of different sizes, this garland with red and orange berries, and also this scarecrow pick. I will also be using some paint and paintbrushes, and also some hot glue. So to start off, I took my biggest pumpkin and I painted it white with some chalk paint. And then I took this Dollar Tree orange paint and I darkened it up with a little bit of the brown truffle paint from Waverly. The idea was to darken up that really bright orange, and I ended up really liking the color that it turned out. Next, I took the middle-sized pumpkin and I removed the orange velvet that was around it in order to reveal the white pumpkin-shaped foam that was underneath it. It's actually really pretty. For this one, I took some green paint from Apple Barrel. I think the color is Kelly Green, and to lighten it up, I'm going to use some parchment from Apple Barrel as well. And I kind of wanted it to get it a little bit lighter than what I got, but I was okay with the color. So for the last pumpkin, which is also the smallest pumpkin, I decided to use the parchment from Apple Barrel, and I darkened that one up a little bit with the truffle paint from Waverly. Once all of my pumpkins were dry, I decided to put some leaves using hot glue on top of the largest pumpkin. Next, I'm going to take the green pumpkin and place it using some hot glue right in the center of the orange one. Next, I'm going to repeat the same step by putting some leaves on top of the green pumpkin and then topping it off with the white pumpkin. Next, I decided to use the garland to fill in the gaps between each pumpkin to kind of add a little bit more flair and more of an eye catcher. Once I was done adding the garland, I did go back and fill in a little bit more of the leaves just to make it look more full. And I'm sorry about the camera angle. I didn't realize that the top of the topiary was not in view, but right here I did go back and add in the scarecrow pick. And this is the final project. So for my second project, I picked up from the Dollar Tree this Halloween pumpkin, this football hanging sign. I will be using this metal harvest sign that came in a 3-pack. I have some fall scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby that I got for 25 cents each, along with some paint, paintbrushes, and hot glue. So I will be using the back of each of these pumpkin signs, and first I go and sand down the small pumpkins because after removing the ribbon, it left these little holes and it kind of made the surface a little rough. And I wanted just to kind of make it all smooth. So for the big pumpkin, I decided to use the scrapbooking paper and this beautiful fall leaves. And to start off, I put some Mod Podge down and I made sure I put enough, a good bit. And I just kind of used the paintbrush to spread it out, and then making sure that I got out all the bubbles, I placed down my scrapbooking paper and I put another coat of Mod Podge on top. Then I set it aside to dry. Next, starting with my first small pumpkin, I'm going to use this parchment paints from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to darken it up again with the truffle paint from Waverly. You'll actually see later that I end up changing the color because I really didn't like the way it came out. So for my second pumpkin, I decided to go with the Kelly Green from Apple Barrel again, and I am going to lighten up the parchment, but a bit more than I did for the first project, because I was trying to get more of a sage looking green, and that's for my second pumpkin. I really like the color green that it turned out. And for my last pumpkin, I'm going to use the orange from Dollar Tree. And again, I'm going to darken it up with the truffle paint to give me a, not quite of a brown color, but a little bit of a darker orange. Once all the pumpkins are painted, I do go back using the opposite colors to draw in some lines to give the pumpkin more of a pumpkin shape. So for the green one, I use the dark orange or brown, I guess you can call it, to draw the lines for this pumpkin. Now for this one, I did use the green paint to draw the lines, but I really didn't like it. And then for this one, I do use the parchment. I decided to go back in and add a little bit more paint, just kind of dry brushing inside the empty spaces on the pumpkin, just kind of give it more detail. And I also took the truffle paint to go back and cover the stems. Now I am sanding each one of these pumpkins just to soften up those lines. Next, I'm going to grab my large pumpkin with a scrapbooking paper on it, and I'm using a cutter. I'm going to cut around the edges. Once that is done, I'm going to take the truffle paint and I'm going to dry brush along the edges of the pumpkin. This is going to make it look aged and rustic. I also use the truffle paint to go back and darken up the stem of this large pumpkin, and I will also use the edging effect on the smaller pumpkins, also giving them a rustic look. Next, I'm going to use this harvest sign, and I'm actually going to use the Waverly chalk paint in white to paint it, because I thought that if I left it silver, it would kind of get lost against the scrapbook paper. After that, I just decided to line up my small pumpkins on the bottom of the larger pumpkin, putting the brown pumpkin in the middle, kind of centering it. And I'm going to take my harvest sign and place it right above that. At this point, I thought this project had turned out really pretty, but I still thought it was missing something, so I decided to go back and add some bows to the stem of each of the pumpkins. Next, I'm using some popsicle sticks to prop up the back of the pumpkin so that it can stand on its own. And then I'm also going to use 3 more of these popsicle sticks to create a stand such as the one you would find in the back of a picture frame. I'm going to put some hot glue right on the nose of the pumpkin just so that it'll have something to stand against. And this is the final project. So for my last project, I picked up from the Dollar Tree some fall floral picks, this wooden home sign, one of their little wooden trays, some foam, and I will also be using some paint brushes, hot glue gun, and this little scarecrow pick. So to start off, I'm going to use this truffle paint from Waverly, and I'm going to paint the entire box except the very middle of the inside and the bottom. I'll also be using some white chalk paint to distress the sides. Now, using some of the orange paint, again from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to paint the entire home sign. This time I'm not going to darken it up with the Waverly truffle paint. Once it's dry, I do go back and use the Waverly to dry brush across the home sign. Now I'm going to add in the foam into the tray. And right here I end up losing some of my footage, but I do go back and use the floral picks to fill up the tray. And I also top it off with this beautiful scarecrow pick. Here are all 3 of the projects from today's video. I hope you all liked them all. And if you did, please give me a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you can be notified every time I upload, and I'll see you soon. Bye.